Welcome to Showcase Week, where every day this week, except for the day that the Autumn of Agony Gauntlet releases, I will be releasing a Rank 3 Ultimate Showcase video for a champion, and I have 5 planned, possibly 6, for this week, and I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be pretty fun. Not all of the videos are going to be like the 1-hour videos that I've put out sometimes, but I'm going to try to get them at least 30 minutes, and this Bullseye one should round up to about 27. So it's close, and let's be real, Bullseye, he's more of a defender. He is still a great attacker. I was able to make a decent size showcase on this guy because there are genuinely a lot of cool things he can do. But the reason this video isn't longer than what the length currently is because you're placing him on defense and BGs more than you're using him for anything else. And that's fine, because this game needs a lot of strong defenders. However, Bullseye is a really good two-way, actually. There is a lot in this character's kit offensively that just works. And I'm going to go ahead and say the best thing about Bullseye on attack right now. And the best thing for Bullseye on attack is the simplicity. There is nothing you have to force to get this guy to do his damage loop. You just hit the opponent and then do a simple little evade thing before your SP2. He relies on no buffs, he relies on no debuffs, he relies on no hyper-aggression versus the opponent. He just hits them, gets to his damage special, and does one simple mechanic before he drops it. And this simplicity allows him to take a bunch of different bosses that a lot of other champions can't do because of the fact that their loop requires more specific things to work. Bullseye is going to be taking a bunch of the Summer of Suffering, and not Summer of Suffering, the Autumn of Agony bosses later in this video, simply because of the fact that there's nothing stopping him from doing it. And that's just the strength of this character. It's the simplicity of his kit that makes him super strong, and definitely one of my favorite things about him. So, against Winter Soldier here, we're just doing the thing where we counter evade, we drop SP2 with the Fury, and then it's going to do a decent bit of damage, and then the opponent's just going to eventually die after you do that a couple times. His counter evade is one of my favorite game mechanics to use. It's just really, really fun, if I'm being honest with you, and I definitely enjoy just letting the opponent hit me because it doesn't matter, and then evading right into the SP2. Counter evades are just a fun mechanic overall. And yeah, we're going to move on to Autumn of Agony Cassie Lang next, and this fight is definitely an example of you wanting a simple character, because there are 2 big RPG mechanics in this fight that are preventing a lot of characters from doing a proper loop. And that's the fact that not only is there an evade for all basic attacks sometimes in the fight, there's a point where you will have all of your special attacks miss in the fight, but also there's going to be Power Sting limiting when you can throw a special, and Crush limiting when you can block. There's just so many limitations in this fight, and it's just so great to have a character like Bullseye who genuinely just does not care. He just does his thing. I'm gonna go for the SP2 here, just eat the Power Sting. I really just don't even care about it. If your Bullseye is awakened, which mine isn't, obviously, but if yours is, you get a really cool mechanic in his SIG ability that allows him to ignore damage from Power Sting. Now, you're not going to ignore all of it completely at SIG 1, you do need to give him SIG Stones to ignore the full effect, but at SIG 200, Bullseye is basically immune to Power Sting damage. And the reason I say basically immune is because of the fact that it also combines effects that are similar to Power Sting, with the big example being Scorpion's Shock Stings, because those technically aren't Power Stings, but because of the way Bullseye's SIG is worded, and because of the way it's intentionally supposed to function, you are going to ignore Scorpion's Power Stings, and it's just a really good time, right? So, the only way around this node with the Power Sting is to get 10 hits in your combo meter, and then that removes the Power Sting, so we just need to do that every once in a while, and then just keep evading into those SP2s. They do a decent bit of damage every time. Ideally get my perfect releases, because then I'm increasing my instant bleed damage for the rest of the fight, and literally just keep doing that. there's nothing stopping me from doing most of my game mechanics. The biggest thing I'm going to have to do sometimes is just parry to get that pursuit up to counter the evade on basics node. And if I drop an SP1, I'm going to gain a 15-second true accuracy, which is also going to bypass the evade if I so choose to. So you don't even have to go for the pursuit if you want to. You could just spam SP1s and have that really nice true accuracy the whole fight. I just chose to spam SP2s for a faster damage cycle, but you can clearly do either one. And here I'm going to go for a evade into the SP2, and she actually evaded the counter attack, which is a little annoying, but we get the stun through the block, and then it's GG's. And of course, everyone knows this about Bullseye. He can't miss. Untouchable, does not matter. Drop SP2s into the untouchable whenever you feel like, and you are going to have a great time. Next up, we're fighting AoA Heimdall. This is another good example of Bullseye's kit just not revolving on anything node-wise, meaning like you're not getting stopped by a lot of the nodes. You just kind of do his thing anyway, because this Heimdall is rather annoying. He's got an annoying unstoppable mechanic. He's got an undexable special too, so you're constantly baiting SP1s, and you got this stupid root during his heavy that you can't really counter. And yeah, it's just a lot of annoying mechanics in this fight, but Bullseye does not give a crap. He's going to be fine. We're going to evade right here into the SP2, right into his heavy attack, which, by the way, stuns at the end of the special, so I don't even need to worry about getting punished there because of the heavy attack node. And then we have the Fury active, doing a little bit more damage on basics. Because of the fact we're critting all the time, we ignore like 80% of his armor rating and resistances, so that's also very helpful. Like, I can just go on and on and on about how little Bullseye cares about simple game mechanics that are everywhere in this game, which is what makes this character so great to me. It doesn't even matter that his damage is not the highest, because there's just a use case for this guy in a lot of different places. And anytime you see a use a skill mercenary tag for all these Autumn of Agony, Summer of Suffering type fights that we see all the time now, Bullseye is going to be one of my go-tos for it, because of the reasons I've already stated. So here I'm going to go ahead and trigger the unstoppable node, get it away, drop the Fury SP2, and then it does a decent bit of damage. He's down to 21%, so another SP2 into SP1 should do the trick. This is Matador, of course, so we are relying on Heimdall dropping specials. And then this is another example of if I just went for an SP1, we can counter his auto block that way. Unless there's a node preventing it. I don't believe there is. I can't remember though. Either way, big SP2 here, and it outright kills him. So that is Autumn of Agony Heimdall. I probably could have done the Prowler one too. My Bullseye was ranked up then. I just didn't do it. But I think I could have done the Prowler. I definitely could have done the Jabari fights. He just works for like all the fights released this Summer of Suffering. It might actually be a good Gauntlet option because of that. So now we're going to fight this MCoC in the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. We have a series of Grandmaster's Gauntlet fights coming up. This is a very cool quest that I do like to show off, even though it is dated, because I do think there's a lot of interesting bosses in this quest that you can use to show off the mechanics of different champions. And in this case, of course, we're going to be talking about Bullseye's true accuracy, because that is MCoC's whole thing, auto-blocking you to death, and you just get really frustrated by it. Well, Bullseye doesn't care. He has this true accuracy on his SP1 that lasts 15-20 seconds. I don't remember the exact amount. And you just use it to outright ignore, auto block, and evade. It's super great. And another cool note on this fight that is definitely helping us is the fact that it's Specialist 1. So my Special 1 is doing 50% more damage, but my other specials do 50% less. So because of the fact Bullseye kind of likes to spam SP1s in these scenarios anyway, it is pretty helpful that that is here. Go for the parry, and then both of those were supposed to be dexes. I messed them both up, but one by being too late and one by being too early, which is pretty hilarious how bad that was. But either way, MCoC is going down slowly but surely, as Bullseye tends to do. So drop another SP1 here, keep getting those perfect releases if we can help it, because those definitely do impact how your longer fights tend to go, because even though they might not matter that much for short fights, as I believe they're only a 10% increase in bleed damage, if you keep stacking them up, like now we've got a 40% increase in bleed damage, about to be 50%, so it's not nothing, right? And then I was hoping that counter evade would kill him, because that would be kind of cool, but it didn't, and then my medium does. So just like that, we're going to move on to the Spider Ham fight. Another great example of Bullseye not caring about the nodes on the defender often, because this Spider Ham has debuff immunity. Bullseye doesn't need debuffs, Bullseye doesn't need buffs, he just does his thing. So we're going to go into this fight, probably spam some SP1, I might be dropping some SP2s in this fight a little bit too, speeding it up because I'm playing this a bit safer than normal, so well, that's also because of a couple things. This Spider-Man does have defensive, which is a terrible node. I don't even know why that's a node, but I mean, this is dated content, so I guess it kind of, you know, might have made sense back then. I don't know. But either way, if we spam SP1, we are just going to keep that true accuracy up the whole time, and then we just don't care about his evade. The power stings, again, if your Bullseye was awakened, you'd be reducing the damage that the power sting does sometimes. So that's cool. Evade into the SP2 there, does some decent damage, and we had that little passive fury for a second, which was nice. Gonna go for another SP1 here, and now we have 5 perfect release and stuff. You're gonna see later in this video that I just like screw up the perfect release so often for some reason. I don't know if I was just unfocused or what, but these fights were recorded really early on in my Bullseye gameplay, and then the later fights in this video were later on, and for some reason I'm like messing up my, I don't know what the heck that was. For some reason I'm like messing up my perfect release a lot more later, so that's a little annoying, but either way, the pig dies in a little over 2 minutes, which is definitely not the fastest, but considering some of the nodes in that fight that are limiting most attackers, I will happily take how it went. Next up, we're fighting Gauntlet Thing as well. This has Oscillate 3, so they're going to have a lot of extra attack in one mode, a lot of extra armor and crit resist in another, and that also changes how their AI works. During the Fury phase, he's going to play hyper aggressive. During the armor phase, he's going to play hyper defensive. And then Bullseye's interesting for Thing. There's Thing's clause in his kit where if you would bleed him, he's gonna lose 4 rock stacks, which is definitely impacting how this fight goes. Sometimes it's annoying because I'm like, okay, I'm about to get him to 15. I know I'm about to get him to 15. I kind of want him to be there, so it's a little annoying at times, but it's not a big deal. It lets you play a little bit more aggressive than normal, and in a fight where the AI is very uncontrollable like this one, it's, you know, definitely helpful to keep those rock stacks lower sometimes. So we also don't have bleed damage in this fight, so that's part of why this is sped up, because we're losing out on a lot of damage. The red numbers we are inflicting is coming from the Black Panther Relic, which, if you did not know, Black Panther Relic is definitely Bullseye's best relic because it has some extra damage when you land guaranteed crits along with cruelties, and Bullseye does guaranteed crits on literally every freaking hit. So it's definitely the best relic for him, and I've been running that thing on that maxed out 5-star one on mine ever since I was still playing the 6-star Bullseye. So really good relic for him, and yeah, if you didn't know which one to use, now you do, hopefully. Next up, we're fighting Gauntlet Spider-Gwen, and this is going to be another example of his true accuracy just being super reliable, because once we get to my first SP1 in this fight, Spider-Gwen's basically going to be locked down. The fight is much harder to control because the fact that Gwen has window of opportunity stun on this boss. Game lag letting me eat a special attack right there is super cool. So window of opportunity stun is here along with one eye open, so you can't even stun her when the window goes away. So that's a little annoying, but it doesn't matter, because if we're just spamming SP1, it's not that difficult to keep up the true accuracy. It's obviously going to scale with different defenders, but generally you're going to have a pretty easy time just spamming SP1, keeping that true accuracy up. Your auto block and evade control most of the fight. Now that wasn't the case with MCoC, because he was limiting how often I was gaining combat power, which is a weird mechanic that MCoC has. I don't entirely understand it, but who really understands MCoC, right? He's a champion in this game. So, she did let me lose my true accuracy a bit there because she was just being terrible AI, but that's okay. We're going to get another one right here and gain that perfect. No, I don't. Okay, I got the early release actually, so we did not gain the perfect release. But she is almost dead anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Eat the heavy attack, evade it, and then drop the SP1. Gonna block the special, and then she's dead right there. And then we move on to Act 8. This is Act 8.4. We're going to be doing a path and a boss, and then we're going to do a path and a boss in 9.1. So this path gives the defenders a 90% chance to evade, and the only way that you can prevent the evade is by having a precision effect, or via Bullseye's true accuracy. The reason I say the precision effect is because of the fact that Bullseye is actually immune to precision effects. Instead of gaining them, he's going to gain a dex, and that, I believe, includes the node that gives you a guaranteed crit buff when you intercept them. I mess up the SP1 dex on Human Torch, it's whatever. Here, I don't even know what that was, but now I'm in the loop. I think I just didn't fully understand the nodes I was going up against originally, and I was just doing a bunch of stupid crap, but now we're vibing. I know what I'm doing now. I just need to keep spamming that SP1 and then let this Human Torch melt. Here, big lag spike, so I'm just going to end up blocking this SP2, which does hurt a little because of the disorient on me. But it's okay. We're going to go for the evade here, or not the evade, just the SP1, which for some reason gave me a Fury. I find that to be a weird bug that sometimes happens, where if you drop the SP1 right when they charge their medium at you, you're going to trigger the evade or you're going to trigger the Fury like you just evaded, even when you didn't have the Killer Instinct active, or even if you did and you just didn't use it to evade. It's a weird bug, but I'm not complaining, right? It's a free Fury that I wasn't expecting to get. So that being said, we move on to the next fight in this path. We're only going to be showing 2 fights on this path. The next one is going to be against this Dr. Voodoo. Really cool thing there. Whenever Bullseye does his counterattack, the first hit of his special attack directly after is going to be unblockable. So Voodoo was not able to block my special 1. Really nice little safety mechanic there if your counterattack does get evaded. So that's definitely pretty useful. I believe it happens again here, and yeah, unblockable right there to save my butt. And then we just go back in. We still have that nice Fury active, so Bullseye's biggest damage comes from his basic attacks, and I guess his SP2 sometimes, but his basic attacks definitely hit very hard, especially when you are bleeding the opponent so much. So when you get that Fury active, you just want to play as aggro as possible, but you don't feel too bad if you can't play super aggro, again, because of how Bullseye's kit just functions. So now we're going to move on to the boss in this quest. I believe this is 8.4.4, maybe 8.4.3. It's one of those two. But I was just looking for interesting bosses in story that could show off some of Bullseye's utilities, and I found this spot one, which is definitely pretty nice because of the fact that since Bullseye can't miss, Spot's entire big threat is kind of just turned off. We're going to take a little bit of rupture damage sometimes in this fight when we hit him in the untouchable, but it really isn't that big a deal. So we're just going to be doing the normal Bullseye rotation, and I believe there's also a debuff immunity node somewhere in this kit, but it doesn't matter because we don't place debuffs, right? And I accidentally triggered the evade there. I did not mean to get hit, but it's okay. Here, I made a mistake again, and instead of dropping the SP2 here, I should have just gone to 3 bars of power, where I would have got another killer instinct and been able to cancel my SP3. So we did lose out on a bit of damage there, causing this fight to last longer than I'd like, but it's not that bad. So build up to another SP2 soon, and then I'm just going to be going for the kill after that, because SP2 and SP1 still does a good bit of damage, especially against Science Champs, which I'm going to talk about that for a minute. Bullseye really likes class advantage, not only because of the fact that his damage is not nearly the highest this year, but because of the fact that you're doing most of your damage on basics, and while you do get a Fury that is going to be increasing your base attack damage, the attack rating bonus you get from having class advantage goes a long way with this guy's kit. So I definitely like using him against most Science Champs. You probably noticed that I didn't have any Battlegrounds gameplay from Bullseye, but he is a good photon counter. He might be able to take Jessica, and I know he can take Thing, but you know, the reason that I don't have a lot of BG's gameplay for this guy is 2 things. One, he's going on defense more often than not anyway, so who cares? And 2, I find that if you're trying to be a skill attacker in this game, it's better to not be focused on countering the threats of the Science class. Because in my opinion, the Science class is the worst class in the entire game for defense. So, because of how class relationships work, you really want your skill champs who are meant to be attackers to be focusing on other classes as well as the Science class, because Science really doesn't have a lot of defenders. The big 3 are Photon, Thing sometimes, and Electro sometimes, and then I guess like a Thing and Electro are kind of 2, and then 3 is Jessica. So you really just want a skill champ to be taking things that are not just Science defenders, in my opinion, which is a little bit of a weird thing that the game has to deal with, because, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult to design skill attackers, I suppose, but we're going to be getting a new Science defender soon, right? I mean, we're going to have to. I'd imagine we're going to be getting a very strong defender for the Science class sometime early this year, and hopefully Bullseye is going to be one of the better options for them. One of the biggest niches for the skill class is guaranteed crits, and because of the fact that, no pun intended, but Bullseye has that in Spades, it's going to be something that he's likely going to be good for if they release another Science defender. So next up, we're fighting Captain Fantastic. Yes, I call him that intentionally. And on this node, you're going to get an armor break when you drop a striker. The armor break definitely helps Bullseye's damage a good bit. You refresh the armor break with your heavy attack, the first hit of your heavy attack. And Mr. Fantastic is super annoying with this node because it was placing extra debuffs on me, so his evade was going crazy. But we got through it, right? And I was just trying to be as intentional as possible about not getting the careful study passives on me. If your Bullseye is awakened, you will have the ability to purify debuffs on your heavy attack, which is going to be good not only for Captain Fantastic's actual debuffs, but also the nodes on this fight that are placing petrifies on you. So here we're fighting this bug juggernaut, which I never fought him before. I never even played him since the bug happened. So when I'm like trying to counter his SP2, I'm like, oh wait, that's not his normal SP2. It would have been nice if it was his normal SP2, because that one's heavy counterable, and I could refresh the armor break really simply like that. But it's not, so who cares? Anyway, the bugs in this game are wild, man. Next up, we're fighting Spider-Ham. This is the last fight on this path, and then we're going to have the boss, and then that's going to be the video. But in this fight, I probably just spam SP1s. Just keep that true accuracy going, and because of the fact that spamming SP1s is not something that Bullseye is really hindered by, which again is just the simplicity of his kit just makes the character. I'm just going to keep on saying that because I really, really like that about him. And again, we're going to be getting power stings on us, which we could ignore if my Bullseye's awakened. He's almost Awakening Gem worthy for me. Like, if I got a skill Awakening Gem, he almost might be the first person I give it to. I gave my skill Awakening Gem that I did pull to Black Panther Civil War. But Bullseye was like my second or third choice with Atuma around as well. Atuma needs it for defense. Bullseye needs it for, well, doesn't need it, but wants it for attack. So there's a lot of different, questions going on in my head on if I should or not. I ended up going with Black Panther. But, yeah. Next up, we're fighting this Overseer boss. This boss is my favorite boss in the entire game for Bullseye, which maybe I shouldn't have put it at the very end of the video because of that. But I think this just defines Bullseye's strengths so well. This node places a bunch of debuffs on you, which are going to reduce your defensive ability accuracy, but also has a node that is going to let you purify every 5 critical hits. Bullseye only knows how to land critical hits, so that's a really good time. It also has Footloose, which, if you don't know what Footloose does, it lets you gain a 200% Fury when you intercept the defender. It's one of the most fun nodes in the game, and Bullseye, because he has a counter evade mechanic, and the way counter evade works is that if you catch their dash attack with it, it counts as an intercept. He can just abuse that, and you see how large his SP2 was. It did so much damage, and we're just going to keep doing that. We're going to go to the SP2, and then we're going to trigger the evade off of his dash attack, go for the SP2, and it's going to be a really, really good time. So I might go for an SP1 here as well. This has redlining too, which is going to help me get to 2 bars of power faster, which is really, really nice. I am going for the SP1 here, trigger the Footloose, and also it's going to pause my Killer Instinct again once I reach another bar of power, which is really nice. Gain the true accuracy as well, which is just helpful versus Overseer in general. And then we're going to go for the evade into SP2, trigger Footloose, trigger the Personal Fury, and this Overseer is not going to be stunned because of the auto block, which I didn't even notice at the time. We did 28k medium, and then Overseer goes down. That's my favorite fight in this video, so yeah, I probably shouldn't have saved it to the very end, but that's it. That's Bullseye. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. He is one of my favorite skill champs right now, and if you don't know, skill is my least favorite class in the entire game, so finding a skill champion that I actually enjoy is not always common. But Bullseye being there for me is really nice. I really like that, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. So if you did, leave a comment, like, sub, all the YouTube things I'm obligated to tell you, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the Rank 3 videos for Showcase Week. I believe a Mega Sentinel is going to be the next one, and it's going to be out for members only, probably when this video goes public. If you're interested in seeing the video early, you can join the channel below, but if not, then it'll be out a day later. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.